Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
And I'm Valerie Comer.
Melody Carlson is here with us today to talk about her new release, A Quilt for Christmas. I'm going to start off by reading her bio. So Melody Carlson has written more than 200 books for teens, women, and children, which is a lot of books, but mostly she considers herself a storyteller. Her novels range from serious issues like schizophrenia to lighter topics like house flipping, but most of the inspiration behind her fiction comes right out of real life. She's won a number of awards, and some of her books have been optioned for film and TV. Melody has two grown sons and makes her home in the Pacific Northwest with her husband and her yellow lab. Thanks for being here, Melody.
Thank you for having me.
So we don't read the back covers of books generally. We like to start things off by having the author tell us about the book. So why don't you do that? Tell us a little bit about A Quilt for Christmas in your own words.
Right. Well, it starts with Vera Swanson, and she's relocated. She's been recently widowed, and she had a big old house, and her children lived elsewhere, and she thought she was moving to be near her daughter and a couple of grandkids. So she gets all moved into this condo, and her daughter's job and her husband, they're gone. So Vera is alone in this town, or she feels like she's alone in this condo. She's not used to condo living, and she used to be the kind of person that would decorate her house from top to bottom with Christmas and have everybody over. And so it's Christmas time, and she doesn't really know what to do. And it kind of starts out with a knock on the door, and there's a little girl whose mom lives next door, and she's having a problem. And so Vera tries to help, doesn't quite know what to do. And in the course of things, the little girl discovers that Vera is a quilter. Mm-hmm. And she says, Mama wants a quilt. And she wants a quilt for Christmas. And Christmas isn't very far off. And Vera doesn't know anybody in this town. And so because of the girl and the other children, she gets sort of pushed along this path where suddenly she's gathering up this group of women that are all completely different, don't know each other. And they form this little quilting group that are madly trying to make a Christmas quilt. In a nutshell.
Perfect nutshell. Perfect nutshell.
It's like you know the story or something. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because it's, you know how it is. It's been a while since I wrote it. So like a reader, I was looking at the back cover copy too. I'm going,
fair. Definitely fair. So I think I have the first question this time. So one of the things in the book, you have a subplot with Tasha, and she has a little romance sort of kicking off just a little bit. And I would love to know more about Tasha and her inspiration, and then the how you got to the idea of her starting to make her way slowly towards love with this. He seems like an unlikely hero at first, but they seem well suited at the end. So I really did love how you did that. So tell us about that and where that came from. And you can give spoilers. I think most people know at this point that if you're listening to our podcast, you're going to get a spoiler or two. So spoiler alert, there's a romance.
Oh no, I never expected that.
A little bit, makes a good Christmas story.
Yes.
Tasha's from a sort of a harder background. Things haven't really gone well in her life. She's creative and beautiful. She's mixed race. Her mother's a little bit flaky. Her aunt's a florist. She works for the aunt who's a florist, so she gets to be a little bit creative, but she's kind of stuck in a way and wants more. And she meets, now I can't even remember the guy's name. I think it's Ethan. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't expecting this question. So anyway, his mother is something else.
Yes.
Part of the quilt group, and they're well off. And there's something wrong with this little family. It's mom and son, and they share a home. He's got a really nice apartment down in the basement, and she rules everything else. In fact, she rules everyone else. And we don't really know what the problem is with her. And of course, she doesn't really want Ethan to be with anybody, let alone Tasha, who's this free spirit who dresses flamboyantly and expresses herself, And so it's kind of it is an unlikely combination. You're right. But I love that, and I think in some ways, not completely, but my husband and I were like that when we first met. people were like, really? No. I'd
That's
been in
fun.
the world, I'd done all
Mm.
these things, and my husband was really kind of quiet and shy, but God knew, and that was 44 years ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
Congratulations.
It worked. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do say opposites attract for a reason, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Narelle, did you have the next question? I think you did.
I think I do. So I enjoyed this story. I'll start with that as well. It was such a fun little Christmas story. And I liked how the quilt project and Fiona with the adorable, she is the cute, adorable, soon to be 5-year-old. And we have a bit of a thing for 5-year-olds when we talk
Yes,
about
we
books
do.
in this
We
group.
do.
There's something about
Yeah.
4 and 5-year-olds that are very popular. And I mean, Fiona really was the glue in the story with the quilt project. So my question is, do you have an interest in quilting? And my second question is there any chance we'll possibly see this book as a movie? Because I'd love to see this quilt on the big screen.
Well, I am a sewer, and yeah, I mean, seriously, I started sewing when I was, oh gosh, I think 10 years old, and then I started designing my own clothes without patterns, when I was 12 and 13, and people couldn't quite figure it out. I did my own wedding dress. I
Oh, wow.
upholstered furniture,
Wow.
all these things, before I got serious about writing. And I did just started making little baby quilts for friends and this and that quilts. And then I took a quilting class from a friend who was a really expert quilter, and everything was very precise, and you had to cut it exactly like this and stitch it exactly like that. And by the time I got done with the quilting class, I hated quilting.
Oh, no.
Free spirit meets
My
quilting.
project became the bed liner for the dog's bed. It was
Oh,
a really
no.
cute dog's bed, but
Oh no.
so then about close to 30 years ago, we moved to one of the biggest quilting towns. It's one of the smallest towns, but one of the biggest quilting towns in the country. And we actually have the largest outdoor quilt show in the world.
Oh wow.
In my
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm around quilts a lot, and we have a really cool quilt shop, and I still do a little bit of sewy things. I don't really quilt anymore because I think if I do, I'm just going to have to go really loose and creative on it, which a lot of people are doing now. And I think I could get into that. But like one of my neighbors, she's very serious, and she's got a whole upstairs that's, just devoted to quilting with, everything that you could imagine. But so anyway, that's kind of where the quilt thing probably comes from. And I'm trying to remember, what was the other question?
Is there any chance we could see this book as a movie? Because some of your previous books have been made into movies, because I would love to see the quilt.
I think it would be a fun movie. I have been adapting my own books lately. And in fact, I've got one coming out in October on Up TV, The Happy Camper, which I did the adaptation for. And right now, the next year's Christmas book, ironically, I'm adapting it, and we have it possibly sold into an interesting market in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I would love to do this one. I think it would be such a fun cast of characters, because it's just an opportunity to bring in, 4 really interesting, diverse women. So it's on my want to do list. The hard thing about Christmas books is they have such a huge pileup of scripts and book ideas and all of that they keep saying, give us another season, give us, summer, spring,
Sure.
and fall. Yeah. So
Sure.
that's a little tricky, but I have quite a few Christmas books to choose from, but I do think this would be a fun movie.
Well, we live
I
in
agree.
hope.
I think it would be
Yeah.
too. And like you were saying, with a diverse cast of characters, you have women females of multiple ages, from 5 to whatever, and ethnicity and personality. Yeah, it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
it would be fun.
For sure. So, at Inspi Romance, I don't know if you got the memo or not, but we're all about romance.
Romance.
So what I was wondering is if you had any thoughts of romance for Vera in this story. Now, I know you write a lot of standalones, and personally, I write series like with like 6 to 12 books in them. So the idea of standalones is like, but what about all those other characters? Like, what do you do with them? So I'm just curious if there's any hope for more for Vera, and how you say goodbye to characters in a standalone.
I know. And I've done a lot of series too. So my mind will tend to go down those roads and like what happened. And when I brought the father-in-law, Fiona's grandpa from Ireland, initially I thought it was going to be for Vera, but turns out it was maybe for now I can't even remember her name, the grumpy rich woman. What's her name? Anyway, Eleanor.
I didn't write her name down
Yeah,
either.
I didn't either. I was like, what is her name?
And I only read it like 2 weeks ago, so it's not like
and
that everything just goes straight out.
But yeah, Eleanor she needs somebody in her life. But in my mind, I was kind of writing the next, like what would really happen. Although now see, I'm going, I did for christianbook.com. They have me do like an extra chapter.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a thing. Tell us more about that too.
Yeah. So I know I can't give it all away. So I had to do kind of like what happened next for them. And I'm trying to remember because I do this every year, and it has been 2 years since I wrote the book, and I don't have one of the christianbook.com special editions here on me. But I do believe that Eleanor and the other guy get together, and I can't remember what happens with Vera, but my heart does go out to these older characters because I'm an older character too. And I don't know if you ever saw, I've got a book called Courting Mr. Emerson. Have you seen that one?
That one.
Well, it's an old romance. It's older romance, and it's so quirky. He's got OCD, and she's just flamboyant and runs the art gallery. And he's just like, don't bother me. And in fact, it involves a Maine Coon cat because she gets this cat, Mr. Emerson. So anyway, I have done a few things with older characters and romance, and I kind of love that. I think it'd be fun. Vera probably does deserve her own book, her own story.
I'm pretty sure she does.
She might not have been ready yet, because this is she's recently-ish widowed. She's not super, so I can see why maybe we weren't ready for Vera.
I think so too. And really, she needed family, and it's by the end of this story, she's got a family. Yeah, and she still has her family. But
that was really, really nicely done. That found family, and making your own, and I loved them coming around. My sister quilts, but she quilts by herself. She likes quilting because she doesn't need people around her. So she's not a quilting bee girl, but it can be either a solitary pursuit or a communal kind of thing. So I enjoyed that aspect of it a lot too.
My grandmother quilted extensively. I mean, she was born in 1900, so it was an era where that was a way of using up your fabrics, or the dress that the youngest daughter finally outgrew, and there might still be a little wear in that fabric yet. They didn't buy new fabric for quilts. So I do have a couple of quilts that she made, and one that I made as a teenager that she quilted for me. Sadly, I didn't treat it as a future heirloom. It's not on the dog's bed though. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that.
I have some of those too that I didn't treat too kindly, but I do have one that was my great grandmother, and my parents divorced when I was really young, so it was his grandmother, and I never met her. But so, according to story, and I don't think anybody made it up, she was blind, or just really very nearly blind. And so she would use pencil marks or something. I don't know what she could feel and what the deal was with that. And I have a crazy quilt that she made that is probably 100 years old. That is, and because it's a crazy quilt, I think every single fabric on it is different. Yeah. I mean, if you can imagine that,
I can.
I don't even know, like 1,000 pieces. I'm not even sure how many it would have, but because some of them are really tiny, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I laughed too when I read that bit. Well, laughed, but not haha. when Vera moved to this new town to be near her daughter, and then her daughter's family gets a job transfer, and oh, sorry, we're gone. And she's like, now what?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that happens to tons of people, older people these days.
I've heard
Yeah.
a lot of stories like that.
Yeah.
Right now, and during COVID, I know people who've moved across the country to be with their children, and then their children got transferred. So that's hard.
Yeah.
Very.
I know of a family, you know, where the older couple was like, well, we'll come and live near you. And the younger couple was like, but we don't really feel all that settled. Like,
Yeah.
come if you
Yeah.
want, but you're
Yeah.
taking a chance. But yeah, my parents did move to be near my sister, and they did stay put. So that was helpful for everyone. But it sure doesn't happen all the time. So I was just like with Vera, I was like, oh man, I can feel this for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we have kind of stayed put to be near our family. Nobody moves. So we're all, sometimes we wish they would.
Our son and daughter-in-law live across the yard. We're on the farm, and our daughter's family is just 90 minutes away, which is too far a lot of times, 2 mountain passes. You know what it's like in the Northwest.
Yes.
But yeah, it could be worse.
Right.
We're thankful.
So what do you have coming next? We just did a quilt for Christmas. What's next?
The next novel, well, I think, let's see, I think I have, and I'm not doing nearly as many books as I used to do, but I think I have the third historical novel in a series that's set in the old West in Colorado, kind of the 1880s.
Okay.
Kind of fun. The first one's called Jillian the Drifter. The next one's Miranda and the Miner. The last one's Julianne and the Judge. I know,
Okay.
kind of,
Yeah.
but it's all in kind of like old Colorado Springs. And then in the springtime, kind of my bigger novel for women is called Second Time Around. In fact, I've got a cover here. Oh, here it is. I'm going to rip it off the wall.
There you go.
So that isn't that
Mm.
That's gorgeous.
it's I'm saying an older woman, but I don't mean older woman. But her children are grown.
Okay.
She's young for her age, and she's been an interior designer, and she inherits this old beat up tourist shop on the coast, and she just decides to go for it and turn it into a decor shop that's called Romancing the Home, which
I love
is
it.
kind of sweet. Yeah. And then it gets pretty wild, because she succeeds so well in her shop that they want to put her on this TV show that's like a Northwest interior design, and then they want to feature her apartment upstairs. Well, she hasn't had time to do anything to it. She only finds that out like 2 weeks before.
Oh no.
And it's like, I mean, plumbing, electric, walls hanging off, no floor, like it. So anyway, that's as much as I'll tell you about that.
Is that one women's fiction then, or is it a romance?
It's a women's fiction, but it's romance. I mean, what happens is the guy wants to buy the property from her that starts with, because he wants to build she thinks it's going to be kind of an ugly indoor mall, but it turns out he wants it to be kind of a pretty outdoor mall, except that it's in this really kind of charming part of town that she thinks is restorable, and she wants to restore her shop. And so she kind of fights with him over it, but then he ends up being the hero when she's scrambling to get her place together, because he's a contractor and he helps her pull things together, and it's fun.
That's nice. I love handyman heroes. We did a whole episode on contractors or handymen as the love interest, because there's just something about a contractor.
They can fix anything.
They can.
I'm married to one, so I don't make this stuff up. And the very first romance book that I ever wrote involved a handyman. The sad thing about it, though, the handyman was a bad guy. We thought he was the love interest, and this other guy kind of swoops in. But most of my stories, the handyman, where it involves a handyman, he is the hero. And my husband and I, we have flipped, restored houses, and we just built a house during COVID. Wow. We spent 2 years of COVID building a house on our own, pretty much. So, and we're still married.
We're renovating for the second
We
time.
had
different
moments.
house, and still
Where
married.
Yeah, we were yelling so loud. I was pretty sure everybody in the neighborhood had heard us because, things weren't
I feel ya.
going as, and I was the general contractor on it. He was the, muscle, and I was the keeping everything
Yeah,
lined up. And so that gets dicey.
it can.
I believe
For
ya.
sure. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
That's funny. Cool. Well, is there anything specific that we missed about A Quilt for Christmas that you want to make sure that everybody knows? Now's your chance.
Well, we talked about some of the characters. There's another character who, they have backstories that I couldn't put all into this because it's too
Yeah.
short of a book.
Yeah.
Like Beverly, who's just Mrs. Sweet, and she brings the sweets, and Eleanor throws fits. But Beverly's got a little bit of backstory of why she does that. It's kind of her making up for some of the things that aren't going so well in her life. And then well, I kind of told you Tasha's, and I don't really want to give away too much of Eleanor's because that ends up kind of being a big deal in the end with Fiona. That's like my favorite part of the whole book.
Yeah,
But
mine too, I think.
Yeah.
I love Tasha and Ethan, what they do for this family is, and really that's what brings them together, is them going the extra mile to make these kids have a better Christmas. So it's just kind of fun.
Narelle, was it you who said Fiona was the glue that held the story
Yeah.
together? Yeah, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because she was the kid that just cracked everything open. So when and the kids have that beautiful way about them where they'll just have no filter and just say the obvious that no adult would ever dare to say. And I just love that about Fiona in the story. So she was the one that I think really challenged the characters to grow without realizing it. Yeah.
She was an old soul, and one of my editors kind of questioned me on it, like, well, she's so young, why would, but I used to teach preschool, and and it was 4 and 5 year olds was what I always worked with. So I've been around a lot of 4 and 5 year olds, and some of them can be amazing and wise and witty and precocious. And
which is why we love them.
Yeah.
I still have one 5-year-old grandgirl. The others are older. I'm soaking up that little girl. She's just
it's a precious age. I love it. It's my favorite age.
Me too, Narelle. That's why I keep writing 5-year-olds.
It's okay. We're not complaining.
No, 5-year-olds are great.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us. You can find more about Melody Carlson at her website, which is melodycarlson.com, and we'll link it in the show notes. If you have questions or comments, please leave them as a comment on the YouTube channel or on our Facebook page. Definitely go read A Quilt for Christmas. And apparently, if you order it from christianbook.com, there's an extra chapter in it, which is exciting. And I'm a little jealous that I don't have it. So
there's a cure for that.
There is a cure for that. I can fix that. I might have to do that.
And I'll ask them if after Christmas, if I could post it on my website or something too.
That would be lovely.
That might be
possible.
But I'd have to get because
permission.
Their
for sure.
idea.
Cool. Well, if you are able to do that, that would be amazing. But if you're not willing to wait on just buy it from christianbook.com. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And we will see you again next week. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.